Ever wonder why some people walk into a room and everyone's eyes just lock on them? Not because they're the most beautiful, not because they're the loudest, but because there's something about them that's magnetically, almost dangerously attractive. What if I told you that attraction isn't some random lottery you either win or lose? What if I told you it's a psychological game with specific rules, and once you know those rules, you can become the person everyone wants to be around, listen to, and remember? Today, I'm going to reveal 11 dark psychology tactics that will transform you from forgettable to unforgettable. But I have to warn you, once you understand these principles, you'll never see social interactions the same way again, and neither will anyone who meets you. Let's get into it, and trust me, you're going to want to take notes, because what I'm about to share goes against everything society has taught you about attraction. Before we dive into the tactics, we need to destroy a myth that's been holding you back your entire life. Society tells you that attraction is about being nice, being available, being agreeable, being everything to everyone. That's a lie. And it's a lie that keeps you stuck in the friend zone, in the background, in the realm of the forgettable. The uncomfortable truth is that attraction is rooted in psychology, not fairness. It's not about what you deserve, it's about what you trigger in other people's minds. The naturally attractive people, the ones who seem to draw others in effortlessly, they're not playing by the rules you were taught. They're playing by the rules of human psychology. And human psychology is raw, primal, and often contradictory to what we're told is right. Think about it. Who gets more attention? The person who's always available, always agreeable, always trying to please? Or the person who's a little unpredictable, a little challenging, a little dangerous? The answer is obvious. But why? Because our brains are wired to pay attention to things that are scarce, uncertain, and slightly threatening to our ego. Attraction isn't logical, it's psychological. And the moment you understand that, everything changes. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through 11 tactics, each one rooted in psychology, each one designed to make you more attractive without changing who you fundamentally are. These aren't about deception. They're about understanding the game and playing it strategically. Tactic number 1, master the art of strategic absence. This is the foundation of attraction. Presence makes you familiar. Absence makes you fascinating. We live in a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be validated. People overshare, overtext, overexplain, and overpursue. And what happens? They become invisible. Not because they're boring, but because they're too available. Scarcity creates value. This is basic economics, but it applies to human relationships profoundly. When you're always there, always responding immediately, always making yourself available, you communicate one thing. You have nothing better to do. You're not in demand. You're waiting for them. And that kills attraction instantly.
Now, I'm not telling you to play games or to be manipulative. I'm telling you to have a life so compelling that you're not always available. Because here's the thing. When you disappear from someone's life, even briefly, their brain does something fascinating. It starts to fill in the gaps. It starts to wonder, where are they? What are they doing? Why haven't they reached out? Are they with someone else? Are they more important than I thought? This is called the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains are obsessed with unfinished business, with information gaps. When you're always present, there's no gap. There's no mystery. There's no psychological tension. But when you strategically withdraw, you create space for obsession to grow. Let me give you a practical example. You meet someone, you have a great conversation. The old you would text them that night, Maybe say, "It was great meeting you. Let's hang out soon." The strategically absent you wait 3 days, maybe 4. Not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely have things going on. And when you do reach out, you're not needy. You're not asking for validation. You're simply continuing a conversation with someone interesting. What happens in those 3 days? They think about you. They wonder if they made an impact. They check their phone hoping you've messaged. By the time you reach out, they're already more invested than they were when you first met. That's strategic absence. You've made yourself scarce enough to become valuable. Tactic number 2, embrace controlled vulnerability at strategic moments. Now, this one seems to contradict tactic 1, but it doesn't. It complements it. People are attracted to strength, yes, but they're deeply attracted to authentic moments of vulnerability from strong people. The key word here is controlled. I'm not talking about trauma dumping. I'm not talking about making yourself an emotional burden. I'm talking about selectively revealing something real, something human, something that shows you're not a perfect facade. Because here's what happens. When someone who seems confident, successful, and put together reveals a moment of genuine humanity, it creates a connection. It makes you relatable. It makes you real. And real is rare. Most people do one of 2 extremes. They're either completely closed off, presenting a perfect image that no one can relate to, or they're completely open, sharing every insecurity and problem, which makes them exhausting to be around. The attractive person does neither. They're mostly composed, mostly strong, mostly together. But occasionally, in the right moment, with the right person, they let their guard down just enough to show they're human. Maybe you're talking about career success, and you mentioned that moment of doubt you had before a big presentation. Maybe you're discussing relationships, and you briefly share a lesson you learned from a past mistake. These aren't cries for help. They're invitations to connect. And connection is the soil where attraction grows. Why does this work? Because it triggers something called the pratfall effect. Research shows that competent people who occasionally make small mistakes or reveal minor flaws are perceived as more likable than people who appear flawless. Perfection is intimidating. It's alienating. But perfection with a crack in it, that's magnetic. Because it says, I'm strong, but I'm also real. I'm confident, but I'm also human. And humans are wired to connect with other humans, not with polished robots. So be strong, be composed, be impressive. But in the right moments, let people see that you're not invincible. That contrast is incredibly attractive.
Tactic number 3. Use selective validation to create psychological addiction. This is where things get a little dark, so pay attention. Most people give validation freely and constantly. They compliment everyone, they like every post, they agree with everything. And because of that, their validation becomes worthless. But when you become selective with your approval, when you become someone whose validation is earned, not given, you become psychologically addicted. Here's how the psychology works. When rewards are unpredictable, they're more powerful. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same principle that makes gambling addictive. If a slot machine paid out every time, it wouldn't be addictive. If it never paid out, people would stop playing. But when it pays out sometimes, unpredictably, people can't stop.
Apply this to social dynamics. If you compliment someone every time you see them, your compliments become background noise. If you never compliment them, they'll assume you don't like them. But if you occasionally, unpredictably, give genuine, specific praise, they'll crave it. They'll wonder when it's coming next. They'll work for it. They'll think about you when you're not around, wondering if what they're doing would earn your approval. Now, this isn't about being manipulative or withholding kindness. It's about being discerning. It's about meaning what you say. When you do give validation, make it count. Make it specific. Make it earned. Don't say, "You look nice." Say, "I noticed you handled that difficult conversation with a lot of grace. That takes real skill." Do you see the difference? The first is generic. The second is observant, specific, and valuable. And here's the key. Don't validate things that don't deserve validation. Don't agree just to be agreeable. Don't praise mediocrity. Because when you do finally give your approval, it needs to mean something. It needs to feel earned. And when people feel like they've earned something from you, they value it. They value you. This makes you memorable. This makes you magnetic. Because in a world where everyone gives cheap validation, your discernment makes your approval valuable, and people are attracted to value. Tactic number 4. Deploy strategic disqualification to trigger pursuit. This is counterintuitive, but it's devastatingly effective. Most people try to make themselves appealing to everyone. They contort themselves to fit what they think others want. They hide their edges. They downplay their standards. They signal, "I'm available, I'm interested, I'm yours for the taking." And what happens? They get ignored, because easy doesn't excite anyone. Here's what attractive people do differently. They disqualify. They casually, almost playfully, suggest that the other person might not be a fit. And paradoxically, this triggers pursuit. Why? Because it challenges the ego. It creates a gap between where someone is and where they want to be in your perception. And humans are psychologically wired to close that gap. Let me give you examples. Someone is talking about their weekend plans, and you say, "Oh man, that's not really my scene. I'm more into whatever your actual interest is." You've just disqualified them slightly. Not cruelly, not aggressively, just casually. And watch what happens. They'll either start explaining why their plans are actually interesting, or they'll start asking about your interests. Either way, they're pursuing your approval. Or in a conversation about values or lifestyle, you might say, "I really respect people who value whatever you value. I think that's rare." The subtext? "I'm not sure if you're one of those rare people." And suddenly, they want to prove that they are. This isn't about being mean. It's about having standards and not hiding them. It's about subtly communicating that your attention, your time, and your interest are selective. And selective is attractive. Most people are terrified of disqualifying anyone because they're afraid of rejection. But here's the paradox. When you're willing to disqualify, when you're willing to not be for everyone, you become infinitely more attractive to the right people. Because you're not desperate, you're not malleable, you're not trying to fit into their box, you have your own box, and they need to earn their way into it. That's magnetic.
Tactic number 5. Master the power of deliberate pacing to control emotional intensity. Attraction isn't constant, it's rhythmic. It has peaks and valleys, and the people who understand this, who control the pacing of interactions, control the intensity of attraction. Most people make one of two mistakes. They either go all in immediately, creating an intense connection that burns out quickly, or they're so cautious and slow that the other person loses interest. The attractive person does neither. They understand pacing. They know when to accelerate and when to pull back. They know how to create emotional waves. Here's the principle. Human beings adapt to constant stimuli. If you're intensely engaged all the time, they adapt. The intensity becomes normal, and normal is boring. But if you create contrast, if you oscillate between high engagement and strategic distance, you keep them in a state of anticipation. You keep them guessing. You keep them addicted to the highs. Think about it like music. A song that's loud the entire time is exhausting. A song that's quiet the entire time is forgettable. But a song that builds, that has quiet moments and explosive moments, that has rhythm and dynamics, that's the song you can't stop listening to. You need to be that song. Practically, this means matching intense conversations with periods of less availability. It means following an amazing date with a few days of limited contact. Not because you're playing games, but because you're creating space for them to miss you, to replay the moments, to anticipate the next interaction. It means being incredibly present when you're together and comfortably absent when you're not. This pacing creates a psychological pattern. Time with you equals an emotional high. Time without you equals longing, and longing is one of the most powerful emotions in attraction. Tactic number 6. Cultivate mysterious competence in unexpected domains. Here's the secret. Predictable competence is impressive, but not attractive. Expected expertise is respected, but not magnetic. But mysterious competence, the kind that surprises people, that reveals layers they didn't expect, that's irresistible. Let me explain. If you're a musician and you're great at music, that's expected. People respect it, but it doesn't surprise them. But if you're a musician who casually mentions you also know how to navigate by stars, or you're fluent in an obscure language, or you have a black belt in something unusual, suddenly you're not one-dimensional. You're a mystery. You're deeper than they thought, and humans are hardwired to explore mysteries. This is called the principle of unexpected depth. When people think they have you figured out, and then you reveal something that contradicts or expands their understanding, it forces them to reevaluate you. And every time they reevaluate you, they become more invested in understanding you. So what does this mean practically? It means cultivating interests and skills outside of your main identity. It means being someone who can't be easily categorized. It means occasionally revealing something about yourself that makes people think, wait, there's more to them than I realized. And you don't announce these things, you don't brag, you let them discover these layers naturally. Someone asks what you did this weekend, and you casually mention you were restoring an old motorcycle, or learning to make ceramics, or studying philosophy, or whatever genuinely interests you that's outside your usual domain.
The key is genuine. Don't fake interests. Don't try to be mysterious for the sake of it. Actually develop yourself. Actually become multidimensional. Because people can sense authenticity. They can tell when you're genuinely passionate about something versus when you're performing. And genuine, unexpected depth is magnetic in a way that performance never can be. You become someone who can't be fully known in one conversation, one date, one interaction. You become someone worth exploring, and that's attractive. Tactic number 7. Practice strategic disagreement to demonstrate independent thinking. This might be the most counterintuitive tactic on this list, but it's also one of the most powerful. Most people think that agreeing makes them likable, but agreement is boring. Agreement is predictable, and agreement makes you blend into the background. Disagreement, when done right, makes you stand out. Now, I'm not talking about being contrarian for the sake of it. I'm not talking about arguing about everything. I'm talking about having the courage to disagree on things that matter, and doing it in a way that's respectful but firm. Because here's what happens when you disagree well. You signal that you have your own mind. You're not a mirror reflecting whatever someone wants to hear. You're a person with your own thoughts, your own values, your own perspective. And that's rare. That's valuable. That's attractive. Most people are so desperate to be liked that they become yes men. They nod along. They agree with everything. And ironically, this makes them less likable because it makes them less real. But when you disagree, especially when you disagree with confidence and respect, you demonstrate several attractive qualities simultaneously. You show independence. You show confidence. You show that you're not trying to win approval through agreement. You're comfortable with potential conflict because your sense of self isn't dependent on universal approval. And all of that is incredibly magnetic. Here's how to do it right. First, choose your battles. Don't disagree about trivial things. Disagree about things that actually matter to you. Second, disagree with curiosity, not hostility. Instead of "you're wrong," try "I see it differently, and here's why." Frame it as a different perspective, not a personal attack. Third, be willing to change your mind if you hear a better argument. This shows intellectual flexibility, which is attractive. And fourth, don't apologize for disagreeing. Don't soften your position with, "I don't know, maybe I'm wrong." If you believe something, own it. State it clearly and let it stand. When you do this, something interesting happens. People start to respect you more. Even if they disagree with you, they respect that you have a spine. They respect that you're not moldable. And respect is the foundation of attraction. Without respect, there's no attraction, only pity or contempt. But with respect, even when there's disagreement, there's attraction. Because you've demonstrated that you're worth engaging with. You're not boring. You're not predictable. You're someone with substance. And substance is magnetic. Tactic number 8. Harness the power of purposeful ambiguity in your intentions. Clarity is overrated in the early stages of attraction. Mystery is underrated. Most people rush to define things, to make their intentions clear, to ask where this is going. And in doing so, they kill the psychological tension that makes attraction exciting. Because once everything is clear, once all questions are answered, the mystery dies. And with it, the chase. Now, I'm not advocating for leading people on or being dishonest. I'm talking about something more subtle. I'm talking about not rushing to label everything, about letting things unfold without forcing definitions, about being present without demanding certainty. Here's why this works. The human brain craves certainty, but it's stimulated by uncertainty. When you're ambiguous about your intentions, not dishonest, just not overly explicit, you keep the other person's mind active. They're wondering, they're analyzing every interaction, they're trying to figure you out. And all that mental energy they're spending on you, that's investment. That's attraction building. Think about it. When you know someone likes you, when they've made it completely obvious, what happens? The thrill diminishes, not because you're shallow, but because the uncertainty is gone. There's nothing left to wonder about. But when someone is engaging with you, enjoying your company, but not explicitly stating their intentions, you stay in a state of heightened awareness. Every text could mean something. Every glance could be significant. Every interaction is analyzed for clues. This is the psychology of the chase. The chase is exciting not because of the destination, but because of the uncertainty of the destination. The moment the destination is certain, the chase ends. So how do you maintain purposeful ambiguity? You don't have the "what are we" talk prematurely. You don't explicitly state "I'm interested in you romantically" before there's a foundation. You show interest through actions, through presence, through engagement, but you don't verbally spell everything out. You let your actions communicate, while your words remain playfully non-committal. You might say, "I enjoy spending time with you," instead of saying, "I'm developing feelings for you." The first leaves room for interpretation. The second closes all doors except one.
And here's the nuance. This isn't about being cold or distant. You're warm. You're engaged, you're present, but you're not spelling everything out. You're letting the other person come to their own conclusions. You're letting them wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's something more here. And that maybe is intoxicating. It keeps them thinking about you. It keeps them engaged. It keeps them pursuing clarity, which means pursuing you. Tactic number 9. Deploy calculated moments of intensity followed by strategic normalization. This is about creating emotional landmarks, moments that stand out, moments that get replayed in someone's mind long after they happen. Most interactions are forgettable because they're predictably pleasant, small talk, surface level, nice but unmemorable. But if you can create moments of unexpected intensity, moments where something real happens, where there's a spark of genuine connection or challenge or vulnerability, you create memories, and memories are what attraction is built on. Here's how this works. You're having a normal conversation and then you shift. You make intense eye contact and say something genuinely meaningful. You ask a question that goes deeper than expected. You share something real. You create a moment where the energy in the room changes, where there's a palpable shift. And then, and this is crucial, you normalize again. You return to lighter conversation. You don't milk the moment. You don't try to force it to continue. You let it exist as a peak, and then you come back down to baseline. Why does this work? Because contrast creates impact. A mountaintop only feels high because there are valleys. A moment of intensity only feels intense because it's surrounded by normalcy. If you're intense all the time, it's exhausting. But if you're mostly normal with strategic moments of intensity, those moments become landmarks. They become reference points. They become the moments that a person replays in their mind. Think about the conversations you remember most. They're not the consistently pleasant ones. They're the ones that had a moment where something real happened. Maybe someone said something unexpectedly honest. Maybe there was a moment of tension. Maybe there was a burst of laughter. Whatever it was, there was a peak. And that peak is what you remember. So create peaks, but don't try to sustain them. Let them happen naturally, let them be real, and then let them pass. This creates a psychological pattern. Time with you includes moments of something special. And when someone experiences that, they want to experience it again. They want to see if that spark will happen again. And that desire, that anticipation, that's attraction. Tactic number 10. Master the art of strategic investment asymmetry. This is subtle but powerful. In any interaction, there's an investment balance. Who's pursuing whom? Who's initiating? Who's putting in more effort? And the uncomfortable truth is that the person who invests less has more power. Not because power games are inherently good, but because it's human psychology. We value what we work for. We're attracted to what feels slightly out of reach. So if you're always the one initiating, always the one putting in effort, always the one pursuing, you're creating an investment balance that works against you. You're signaling that they're the prize and you're the pursuer. And that kills attraction. The strategic approach is to match investment, not exceed it. If they text you, you text back, but you're not always the one initiating. If they suggest plans, you show up, but you're not always the one suggesting. You create a subtle asymmetry where you're slightly less invested than they are. Not dramatically, not obviously, just slightly. Just enough that they feel the need to pursue a bit. Just enough that they wonder if maybe they should put in a little more effort to secure your attention. This isn't about playing games. It's about valuing yourself enough not to over-pursue.
It's about recognizing that attraction grows when both people are choosing each other, not when one person is chasing and the other is being chased. So practically, this means noticing the investment pattern. If you've initiated the last 3 conversations, don't initiate the 4th. Wait. See if they reach out. If they don't, you have valuable information. They're not that interested. And that's okay. Better to know early. But often, they will reach out because the pattern shift creates a question in their mind. Where'd they go? Why haven't they reached out? And suddenly, they're thinking about you. They're taking action. They're investing. And with that investment comes attraction. So pay attention to the investment balance. Make sure you're not always the pursuer. Make sure they're choosing you as much as you're choosing them. That mutual investment is where real attraction lives.
Tactic number 11. Cultivate an aura of non-neediness through genuine self-sufficiency. This is the foundation that makes all the other tactics work. If you're needy, if you're desperate for validation, for attention, for approval, nothing else matters. Neediness repels. It repels universally, regardless of how attractive you are physically, how successful you are professionally, or how interesting you are intellectually. Neediness kills attraction. But non-neediness? Non-neediness is magnetic. It's the secret ingredient that makes everything else work. So, what is non-neediness? It's not pretending you don't care. It's genuinely not needing external validation to feel okay about yourself. It's having a life so full, so compelling, so satisfying that other people are an addition, not a requirement. Here's the psychology. When you're needy, you're communicating, "I'm incomplete without you. I need you to make me whole." And that's a burden. That's pressure. That's unattractive. But when you're non-needy, you're communicating, "I'm whole on my own. I'm choosing to share my life with you, not because I need you, but because I enjoy you." And that's a gift. That's freedom. That's attractive. So how do you become non-needy? Not by pretending, not by playing it cool while internally desperate, but by actually building a life you love. By having hobbies, passions, friendships, goals, pursuits that fulfill you independent of romantic validation. By becoming so engaged with your own life that you're not sitting around waiting for someone to text you back. By developing a genuine sense of self-worth that doesn't fluctuate based on external approval. When you have this, everything changes. You stop over-texting because you're genuinely busy. You stop over-explaining because you're comfortable with misunderstanding. You stop seeking constant validation because you validate yourself. And ironically, this makes you infinitely more attractive because people can sense it. They can sense when someone is complete versus incomplete. They can sense when someone is choosing them versus needing them. And choice is attractive. Need is repulsive. So, work on yourself. Build yourself. Become someone you're proud to be, regardless of who's paying attention. Because that internal foundation, that genuine self-sufficiency, is what allows all these tactics to work authentically. Without it, you're just playing games. With it, you're strategically engaging from a place of strength. So let's tie this all together, because you've just learned 11 powerful tactics. Strategic absence that makes you valuable through scarcity. Controlled vulnerability that makes you relatable despite your strength. Selective validation that makes your approval worth earning. Strategic disqualification that triggers pursuit by challenging egos. Deliberate pacing that creates emotional waves and anticipation. Mysterious competence that makes you endlessly interesting. Strategic disagreement that demonstrates independent thinking. Purposeful ambiguity that maintains psychological tension. Calculated intensity that creates memorable emotional landmarks. Investment asymmetry that prevents over-pursuit and maintains attraction balance. And genuine non-neediness that makes you magnetic because you're choosing, not needing. These aren't tricks. These aren't manipulation tactics.
These are psychological principles rooted in how human attraction actually works. And when you understand them, when you implement them authentically, you stop being forgettable. You stop being friend-zoned. You stop being overlooked. You become someone people remember, someone people pursue, someone they can't quite figure out but can't stop thinking about. You become magnetic. But here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this video and forget about it. Pick one tactic, just one, and implement it this week. Maybe it's a strategic absence. Maybe it's selective validation. Whatever resonates with you, try it. And then, come back to the comments and tell me what happened. I want to hear your results. I want to hear your stories, because this only works if you actually do it. And if this video opened your eyes to how attraction really works, do me a favor. Smash that like button so more people can see this. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because we're going deep into dark psychology, philosophy, and the hidden rules that govern human behavior. Drop a comment right now and tell me, which of these 11 tactics surprised you the most? Which one are you going to try first? I read every comment, and I want to engage with you on this. Until next time, remember, attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about being strategic. It's about understanding the game and playing it with intention. Now go out there and become magnetic.